Guys, go join the Discord server, discord.gg/video editing. We offer free assets, free plugins, help, engagement boosts, and everything you need to enhance your editing experience. So if you are completely new to After Effects, then don't worry. I know it can look absolutely crazy. It's not as hard as it seems. And I'm going to be breaking down this video for complete beginners that have just freshly installed it. Your After Effects might be looking a little bit like this, and the very first thing that we're going to be taking a look at is the UI. Now, UI is basically user interface. That means what buttons do what, how it works, and once you become familiar with this, everything is going to become so much easier. So of course we're going to go new composition, and for the sake of this project, I'm just going to put it in 60 frames per second, 1920 by 1080. So these two is where you change the resolution. This is the frame rate. And if you're trying to change this and it's just not working, like you're changing it and then the numbers are changing, make sure to have this box unchecked. And you always want to leave start time code on 0. Now, depending on the length of your project, it could be 10 minutes, let's say. So we'll change this to 10. Background color, you can just keep it as black. Doesn't really matter too much. I always just keep it on black. If you wanted to get into 3D, for example, you'd go to 3D renderer, and you can either choose classic 3D, advanced 3D, or if you have it installed, cinema 4D, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Press OK, and this is what you are greeted with. Now, for the sake of this, I'm going to close all of this just to show you guys something. Your After Effects might look a little bit like this, and you're thinking, where is all the cool stuff that you have? Throughout your time on After Effects, if anything ever goes missing and you're wondering how to get it back, there are two ways. You can either completely reset your workspace by going to Window, Workspace, and then reset default to saved layout. This is what mine looks like. And even here, as you can see on the right hand side, a lot of stuff is still missing. So we're going to go back to Window, and then over here you can see all of the stuff that you might not have. So straight away, character, I'm going to be needing that. That's basically how to mess with your text and stuff. We'll get into that after. Content aware fill, I'll slap that on there. And for now, everything is looking good. So the first thing that I'm going to do is find a video and drag it onto the composition. This stock video of a clock, I'm just going to slap it over here and then drag it and put it onto the timeline like so. Now, if you wanted to mute your audio on After Effects, simply just click this little button over here. If you want to not see it for a second or just hide the layer so that way you can see stuff underneath it, you press this eye that's just next to it. And when you're messing with transform properties of this said video, I wouldn't recommend just grabbing it and moving it like this, because that's just a terrible idea. What I would say is click this little arrow over here, go to transform, and now you can mess with all of these different properties over here, like scale, rotation, etc. But I'm just going to put this back to normal for now. The next thing I want to talk about are keyframes. So that is, how do we get movement? How do we get smooth movement? How does all of this work? If you look at the position, scale, rotation, all of this here, and you see this little stopwatch just next to it, I'm going to click this stopwatch for position, and that has now created the first keyframe on our timeline. And then if I move it forward and then change the numbers here by grabbing it and moving it across, you can now see the clock move, but it's not very smooth. So if you grab these keyframes like so, press F9 on your keyboard, it's a little bit smoother, but we can still get that way better. And the way we're going to do this is motion blur. So you see this little 3 circles over here, it says motion blur. If we just check the box underneath it, I mean, you can't really see it too much, but there is motion blur on that. You'll see it more if we then select these F9 keyframes, click on this little thing here called the graph editor, and it won't look like this for you. It might look like this. If it does, don't worry, just right click in the empty space and press edit speed graph. Now, if you click the right square just here and drag this in, look at how smooth that now is. By the way, you could also do it the opposite way. And you can see the different types of movement here. So it literally just follows this line across within speed. So if you are putting it this way, it's going to go slow, then fast. Whereas if you do it the complete opposite way, like I first did, it's going to go fast and then slow. Now extend this out, and you can now see we have some really smooth keyframes. But you may be wondering, Mason, okay, I know the UI for keyframes, I know the UI for all of this stuff. What about the stuff up here on the top left? Now, these are what I like to call the manual handling tools. What this essentially means is if you want to put text, if you want to crop things out, if you want to rotoscope, if you want to zoom onto things, if you want to create new shapes, you do all of that by using these boxes up here. So I'll go through them one by one. Now, clicking on home is just going to send you straight back to the home page, which we don't want right now. And then we have the selection tool. Now, I would advise you, after everything that you do, after switching to other things, switch back to the selection tool. It will just make your life easier and you'll run into a lot less problems on the way. Then over here we have the hand tool. Now, what this essentially is if we click and drag, we're now being able to go all around the composition that we have. So if we wanted to zoom into something and we just did it normally with the selection tool, you can see it's not very reliable if we want to get to a certain place. Whereas if we zoom and then use the hand tool, we can then zoom and move over to little parts of the video that we can see. And by the way, if your After Effects is looking a little bit like this and you're like, what the flip, how do I change it? Go back to the selection tool, click on this right here, the magnification ratio pop-up. Then we're going to press fit. Straight away, boom, back to the center. That's what I'm talking about. Then we have the zoom tool. It's basically the same thing, but you click to zoom. I would always just advise use the hand tool. It's quicker for your workflow. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really use these three tools up here, but there probably are guys that use it, so I'm sorry, please don't flame me. Rotation tool. Now, you won't really be needing this too much because, like we said earlier, you can just keyframe the rotation over here and it's just way more easier. I don't really use the pan behind anchor tool. Probably are guys that use it. Then we have the rectangle tool. Now, if you look and see that there's a tiny little triangle just in the corner of that, that's because if you hold it down, you get rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, and star tool. But let's stay on the rectangle tool for now. What does this do? Now, if we don't have this selected and we just put down the rectangle tool, it's going to create a solid in the shape of a rectangle. So if I did that again, you can see here, and look, the fill is right here. If we wanted to change this to white, we've now got a white rectangle. However, if we selected our footage and then used it, it then crops that footage into the shape that you have selected. Now, this is very, very handy, especially when you want to apply masks. And you can even keyframe the properties of this said rectangle, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Then we have the pen tool. Now, this is a very important tool. Once again, if you hold it down, you have all of these other things. Don't worry about them for now. We're going to focus on the pen tool. It does exactly what you think it would do. So rather than being an exact rectangle when you're cropping, you can literally just crop specific parts just like this. Now, if you want to undo this or get rid of it, you can Control Z, but there's also another way, and that's if you come down here. So let's just say this was closed, for example. You open this up, you see masks, open up masks. This is the mask that we've now applied. If you want to do inverted, it's going to put everything on there except the mask. And then here you can see you can keyframe the path of the mask, the feather. What this does is essentially, you can see it's really rough, this cut that I've made. You can see it looks really ugly. If we just enhance that, you can't really see the cut that's been made now. Mask opacity, you know, it's basically the same thing. I'm going to get rid of that mask for now and continue. Now we have the horizontal type tool. Now, I'm not going to lie, I never use the vertical type tool. Even if I want to type vertically, I guess sometimes I'll use it, but mainly horizontal type tool. This is very simple. You just click on the project, type what you want. So I'll just do elusive editing. I'm going to hide this layer for now just so we can get rid of it, and this will be a lot easier. And yeah, the question is, how do I customize my text? How does this even work? Let's double click on this. So that way it's selected. This is very important. And then you should have the properties tab over here. You can also use character. I would actually recommend using character, to be honest with you. I just use it more often. But for the sake of this video, we're going to use this over here, the properties tool. So let's see what we've got. We have at the top which font you're going to be using. So yeah, this over here is selecting which font. And of course, like I said, you need this selected for it to change. And in that font family, if there's a bolder version of this text, so as an example, if we go here, you can then go thin version of that font, bolder version, etc. I'm going to do black. Now this over here that says TT, this is how to make your text bigger or smaller. It doesn't center it, but it makes it bigger and smaller. And this tool over here that says set the leading, the way this works is, let's just say you have 2 lines. So like this, you have one text, but it's on 2 lines. If we select this and then move this, it creates distance between said lines. Just like so. And then the tool underneath it separates each letter and gives it more space. So if you ever want to go back to normal and think you've messed it up, put this on 0 and this on 100. Next we have fill and stroke. The way this works is if you have this disabled, you're just not going to see nothing. If you have this disabled and stroke enabled, you get this effect where there's no fill, but it's just the outline of the text. And to make this stroke bigger and smaller, you can see just under here, we can now enlarge that or make it smaller. And it says stroke over fill over here. If we change that to fill over stroke, you can see a lot of different changes there. I'm going to keep this on fill for now. Then the paragraph tool. Now you can see here, if we change it to the left, this does not mean that your text is going to be centered. You do that differently. What it means is the positioning of the text together. So if it's on 2 lines, you can see that this is perfectly met up because it's met up on the left side. If we go center, and if we select all of this and then put it on the right, you can then see that the G and the E line up on the right side. So for now, I'm going to keep this just in the center. Text animator, for now, don't worry too much about that because there are plugins that make that so much easier. But let's say you want to get your text perfectly in the middle because it's looking ugly right now and you don't want to like figure it out because you're never going to get it exact. That's where the align tool comes in. Now if you can't see align, go to window, align, and it will pop up right here. You have all of these different align tools, and if you want to get it in the center, you press align horizontally and align vertically. Whereas if you wanted to do align left, that will align it on the left side, on the right, on the bottom. But if you just click this one and this one, you've now got it perfectly in the center. Makes life so much easier, right? Okay, but this text is so flipping boring. What am I going to do with the text? I don't want just normal text here. Well, that's when we go to effects and presets. Now, yours is probably not going to look as crazy and insane as mine because I have plugins. If I had to give you a quick rundown shortly of how plugins work, 99% of content editors will use third-party apps that you can install into After Effects and combine those said effects to get the look that they're going for. Because normal built-in effects on After Effects, they're okay and you can combine them to make some beautiful pieces, but the plugins is where the crazy stuff happens. So I'm going to ignore all of my plugins for now, and if I go to stylize, you can see these will be like built-in Adobe ones. And then if you just grab it and drag it onto the text or onto whatever layer you want, then boom, you get the effect that is applied. And then on the top left, where it says effects controls, this is where you can mess with the effect. And as you can see, there's a stopwatch between everything because you can actually keyframe effects as well to make them look even smoother. But Mason, what if I can't flipping see this? You idiot. I understand, don't worry. You might be on project. Simply just click to where it says effects controls, and if it's like this, then look, you just click this little arrow and then you can go to effects controls, but make sure it's selected. Same way, look, effects controls for this, effects controls for this. There is something that I have missed. What about if I want to trim my video or the layer that I'm using? Very simple. You just go use your timeline cursor to the part you want to cut it at, click on the layer and press Control, Shift and D. And as you can see, that's now split it. You can then go to whatever side you want and delete the rest of it if you want to get rid of it. And you can still go back and extend this just like so. But now we need to talk about compositions. Now, compositions are one of the most important parts of After Effects. Like this, I cannot stress this enough. You will be using this every single time you make an edit. A composition is basically like grouping videos, photos, layers, etc. It's putting stuff in a group so you can move it all as one. So if I enable this layer with the clock again, and rather than having these two separate, I want to combine them. It's simple. You click the layer, click the other layer, or if you're selecting all of them, press Ctrl A, right click, pre-compose, then press OK. And you can rename this as well in that box. But now, as you can see, if I want to move stuff around, it moves together, it's combined. And the absolute coolest part about this is my composition that I originally made is in 1080p. If I just throw in a bunch of different elements here, such as, you know, a basketball and some money. I'll hide these two bottom layers for now. And I pre-compose it. If you want to open up this composition to see what's inside and maybe make some changes on the inside, you simply just double click it. And now you can see, if we click back over here to comp 1, this is our original composition. If we click to comp 2, that is on the inside where we can actually mess with the individual stuff. And this is really cool because if we right click the top just here, we go to composition settings, you can change the width and length of said composition just like so. And if you press OK but go back here, this is still going to be in 1080p, but the composition itself is now at the properties that you've put it in. And you can actually add movement, same way we said at the beginning, to this composition, or if we wanted to go back into the composition, we can move stuff separately as well and keyframe all of that. Next, we're going to move on to the 3D stuff, which I know is a little bit crazy. But if we go to this composition of the basketball and the money, and I go to this little box right here, which is 3D layers. By the way, if you go back here to composition settings and go to 3D renderer, for the sake of this video, I'm going to be using classic 3D because it's just built into After Effects. Once this little box is enabled, if we go back to our transform properties over here, you can see it's looking a little bit different now. So we have material options, geometry options, and transform. If we go to transform, the rotations to things have now changed. We have X, Y, and Z. And this is simply, if we move the X, you can see this is moving sort of like forward and backwards. If we change the Y, this is moving the sort of like left and right 3D properties. If you move this all the way, it will go backwards. And then Z is like the original rotation that was already there, just moving it around in circles. And then if you disable it, then yeah, back to square one. And now let's take a look at this. This is the roto brush. Now this is an essential. I'm not gonna lie to you. If I just delete all of this stuff right here and I get a clip that I want to use, as an example, this was a podcast intro that I edited. If we want to crop this girl out, right? Keep it in mind, this is a moving video. If we want to crop this girl out, but it tracks her movements while it's cropped, that's when you're going to be using this one up here, the roto brush tool. Now, you've got to be very careful when you use this, and there's a very specific way of doing it. Before you even think about clicking on this, make sure that where it says full over here, or whatever this might be, it might be quarter for you, change it to full. And if we go here, change this to off final quality. And the reason we want to do this is because when the roto brush tracks, we want it to be in the highest quality so it doesn't mess up and things just go wrong. And the next thing is we want to go to exactly when there's a new scene change, which for us is going to be over here, because I've already used the roto brush in this video, and cut it as soon as the scene changes. Otherwise the roto brush is going to mess up. If you try to roto brush this video and cropped her out when the whole of the rest of the video is different and she's not in some of the parts, it is going to absolutely mess up so badly. So now select the layer that you want to roto brush, select the roto brush tool and double click. There we go. Now as you can see, if we move this over, now this is the roto brush, this is the composition. So if I go and start, now as you can see, I've already ran into a problem when trying to use it because it says frame rate mismatch. I need to set my composition to the exact same frame rate as this video, otherwise it's not going to work as good as it needs to be. So I'm going to right click this, close panel, go back into my composition settings, and I'm going to change it right now to 25 FPS. We're going to change this back after, but for the sake of the rotor brush working, we're going to put it into 25. And now we can just run this straight through. As you can see, what we got to do is just kind of even it out, make sure it's perfect. You're going to get stuff like this happening. When it goes out too much, just press Alt and run a line through it, and then extend it a little bit more, and then Alt, and then extend it a little bit more, and just get around all of the finer edges. You can use your mouse scroll wheel to get it more defined. I'm not really caring too tough about getting this exact, just so I can kind of speed up for the sake of this video, but as you can see, I have pretty much done most of this now. Perfect. So now if we go up here, right click and press close panel, you might be wondering, the edges still look really rough. How do we fix this? Go to your effects controls, turn the feather up until it's to your liking. So I'm pretty sure 13 would be pretty good for me. And now if we play the video, you can see that it does track her. Now the rotor brush can be very flipping slow. And it's annoying, I know. After Effects is slow in general, but you know, this is just what we got to go through. And just for this video, to kind of end things off, if your After Effects is going very slowly, here are some tips to speed it up. Number one is go over to Edit, Purge, All Cache, and this is basically going to delete all of the cache that is built up in your After Effects that's not needed anymore. I recommend you do this regularly, especially for big projects. Then if we go back to Edit, go to Preferences and just go to General, this is your After Effects settings. Now listen, don't mess with too much of this because it can seriously flip up your After Effects. But if we go to Media and Disk Cache, I recommend putting this on over 90 gigabytes just because, yeah, just do it. So I said so. For previews, I would say have it on faster if it's really that bad, and change stuff over here to make your After Effects faster as well. If you really want to go the extra mile to make it faster, go to File, Project Settings, and as you can see here, we can decide whether we want this project to run on my GPU, which is CUDA, or OpenCL and Mercury software only, and these two are your CPU. And yeah, that's episode 1 of the After Effects Masterclass. This is just the UI and kind of getting familiar with everything that's on your screen, understanding how it works. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments below and I'll be sure to make a part 2 video. I know this was kind of rough, but this is just how I use After Effects. Everyone uses editing softwares differently. And yeah, thanks for watching.